is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome into the Triple Option. We're going to talk games in a minute, like get into the week, and big things are going on, like Alabama and Georgia. That's a pretty important game for the national picture. Garrett Ross joins today. Steven Simcox had work responsibilities and turned down the huge daily stipend we give him of a high five from Emory. And if he really performs, a wink and a gun from Jack.
Yep.
So that's big money. That's not – sometimes, getting paid in cash is not the reward that you think it is.
It's overrated.
Sometimes just the self-esteem and recognition from two people in their 20s
that's all you need in life.
Makes it all worthwhile.
Yep.
That's all that I needed. In case you're wondering where I was yesterday, I was helping Smokey out with something, and it took longer than we thought. So I didn't want to come in here on two wheels with no preparation or not any, usually I'm here about an hour before the show or so, and Garrett and I can sit down and talk, and then Royden or Steven or Pierre or whoever, we can sit down and talk and kind of go through some things. That was not going to happen. I would have been here at 12:59.
But they got pushed back too, didn't it?
What?
They got pushed back after that too, didn't it?
Yeah. I would have been here at best 12:59.
Yeah.
At best 12:59. So I didn't want to mess with it. So that's why I was not here yesterday. And my apologies for that, because it was not I'll just tell you, it wasn't the best coordinated effort. And thank you to my wife, Amanda, for pitching in a hand in our thing as well. So it was not a greatly coordinated effort. I have found this out since I've gotten married, Garrett. Mm-hmm. Women are so much better at planning.
Detail-oriented.
Much better at planning. Because she'll ask me, like, hey, what's the plan for this weekend? Like, we're going to the FSU-SMU game. And I'll be like, yeah, where'd you go up there? And, like, Machota is going to meet us. And then,
figure it out.
We'll figure it out. And she's like, well, what time? Well, the game's at 7. I don't know, like 4:30. I don't know. We'll get about 4:30. I've got credentials. I'm going to go up and meet the SMU people who've been great to us, and hopefully get in front of the FSU people and be like, hey,
we're here, man.
But Bud Elliott and Danny Cannell aren't your only people. All right. I'm not. Listen, here's the thing. No offense to them, but I'm the nice guy of the bunch.
You are. I'll give you that. You are.
Like, I'm the nice guy of the bunch. I don't know. Like, I like to think of myself as a nice guy. But maybe I'm a dick. I don't know. I think I'm the nice one.
You're pretty nice. I mean, if somebody pisses you off, you can get a little edgy, but
yeah. I mean, like you got to keep an edge to you.
Yeah.
But I feel you get what you give. So I'm nice. I'm professional. Mm-hmm. I only give people a hard landing when they deserve a hard landing.
Correct.
If they don't, then I won't. I'm not out here. I'm not playing gotcha.
Right.
I don't think that's productive. I could, I'd probably get more likes or, people talking about me, but
that's the thing is people, I think a lot of it now is people just don't care. As long as you throw whatever against the wall or act however you want, you're going to get engagement. That's all that really matters.
Oh yeah.
To most people.
Oh yeah. Well, look, we've seen that today.
Oh Jesus.
In Las Vegas.
Yeah.
With this Matthew Sluka story, which we will get into. So retired stockbroker. Maybe I'm a dick or just a caveman.
Never know.
For the Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer, which is I will say it again. If you've not seen it, look it up. It is the greatest SNL sketch of all time.
Is that where you got your cup?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. It's Phil Hartman. It is the greatest. The ones they did were so good. And I think it's the greatest because it's just so good in its simplicity. Mm-hmm. Like, they just took this idea, and then the joke is he's a caveman. That's it. There's no, complex thing to it.
So
it's just...
Did this Was this the birth child or the inspiration behind the Geico caveman?
I wonder if it was.
Because this seems very like that, like some Insano Man. Like, yeah.
I would think so. I would think that like they said, hey, remember that? Let's do a thing where cavemen are smart. But this was the one where it's like, is the moon like when I see a solar eclipse like the one I see in Mexico City on my vacation last year, I think, is the moon eating the sun? I don't know. I'm a caveman. But what I do know is that you should award my client no less than $1 million in actual damage and $3 million in punitive damages. So, yeah. But we'll talk about Matthew Sluka and his unfrozen caveman lawyer.
That's what I was going to say
in a second, because that like he might have one. Who allegedly now is not licensed as an agent in the state of Nevada, which is not good.
That's a bad start.
This thing is such a mess. But let me go back to what I was talking about planning things. My wife is so good at it, like so good. And I used to think I was a good planner because, if my buddies and I were going to a movie or something, I'd be like, look, I'll get the tickets, or like going to the ball game. Like, all right, you guys just, write me a check, give me cash, PayPal, Venmo me, whatever. I'll get the tickets. And then our plan for the game was made like the day before.
Right.
So if we were going to a Rangers game on Saturday, on Friday at about 10:30, there'd be a group text. We'd be like, want to leave at noon? Hit the bar first? Yeah. Okay. Whose house? Matt's. Great. Done. Those are the details we need. Now, my wife, and most wives, I'm sure Anna is just like this, Garrett, where not only do we need to know Matt's, we need to know like where on the side of Matt's house we're going to park our car, like where we're exactly going. The bar is not just something like if the four of us in this room decided to like go just hit up a bar, if the first one we went to sucked, we'd be like, well, just go to this one over here.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That doesn't fly with wives.
No, not at all.
It doesn't. Like, no. We want to go, like, and then they'll remind you of, you remember the last time that we went here, you didn't we didn't get a table for forever, and, the service was bad, and be like, yeah, but they have that whiskey I like. And like,
right.
No. We're going to go over here. This one's better. It's more, they have the couches we can sit on. They have, the plan's better.
Right.
So, I try to get my wife to make all the plans, but then she's like, no, we're going to get you better at this. And it reminds me of when I was a little kid, and then they would talk about my mother. I would ask my mom, like, hey, what does that word mean? And she had a gigantic old dictionary up on a podium kind of a thing. And she'd be like, well, go look it up. I'm like, oh, I mean, you could just tell me. But now I've come to figure out that maybe she didn't know. Mm-hmm. So she wanted me to look it up and come back and tell her.
Either that or she was helping you build some critical thinking skills.
Yeah, I mean, that too. I mean, she was a teacher and a nurse. So my mom's a smart lady. It just, I just thought that she did that. But yes. But I remember being like a kid and hating it until the point where I just wouldn't ask anymore, and I would just go look it up in the dictionary.
So she won. She won.
Yeah, she won. That's the first lesson of you're going to lose.
Yep.
You're going to lose. Like even as your parents get older, like they still find a way to win. Like even when you're in more control over certain things, they're going to find a way to win. I will just point out that the oldest guy on this show,
yeah,
we have to cater to the elderly, and I appreciate that, but it's stressful. That was maybe an unfair dart, but I had to get it in. So anyway, but that's all to say that, I think they should be in charge.
I do too.
Just think they should be in charge. I think they should just take control of it. And like, if I agree to that, like, here's the thing. When you get married, when you're a single guy, you're the president and CEO of your own company. You control all the votes and all that stuff. When you get married, you get to go to the board meetings, but you don't really have that much of a voice. So I would just rather, let's just admit what this is, and you take control, as opposed to the go look it up yourself in the dictionary thing. But
It's
again,
it's a dictatorship.
I'm building. I guess I'm building character.
I think you are. It's very give and take. I think as long as things go longer, it'll get a little easier. You'll come a little more mending in the middle.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll
Well, you've been married a lot longer than I have.
18 years.
A lot longer. A lot longer. So let's get into the show, which the title is "What the Hell is Going On at UNLV?" As if they didn't have enough to think about.
For real.
What conference do we want to be in? Where do you want to be? What's the best for our future? We hold the fate of the Mountain West in our hands, and we're going to make a decision here and see what's going on. And I'm sure they're talking to Air Force and like, what are you guys going to do? Like, what do you think? What would you do? Like, what is this? Like, do we feel this is the same thing? Also, the fact that the loss of Utah State has – here's how weird the college football world is. The loss of Utah State has made people who made promises to the Mountain West go back on said promises because they were thinking the league was going to be one thing. And now Utah State's gone and like, whoa, hey, this is different now.
Right.
Maybe it's better for us to go over here. When these conferences should just emerge, like, just take the Oregon State and Washington State, merge, take the money.
I don't understand, like, from a PAC's perspective, the logic behind thinking having Utah State represent the brand is the equivalent to having Utah represent. Like, it's not. So at the end of the day, all you're doing is creating another G5 school and and crippling another, trying to kill it off. You're doing the same exact thing that happened to you, and you're trying to justify it. It makes no sense. I just want it to all just merge already. Just merge. I know it's really comes down to like leadership, who wants to run that conference and everything, but neither one of them, they're all going to be in the same position, no matter how it all shakes out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then today we find out that their quarterback, who set FCS records in passing and rushing for a quarterback at Holy Cross, is now going to take his redshirt year and transfer out of the program after playing 3 games for them. And so there are versions of this story that are all over the place. So I'm going to go through what we know to be factual.
Okay.
And then we'll go through each side of this so that in an hour, when we talk about this on 365 Sports, those of you who have watched have got a primer for what's going on. So, according to Matthew Sluka and his family and his agent, there was a promise by a UNLV assistant coach of $100,000 for him to come play for the Runnin' Rebs. Right? So, his family alleges that they've not been paid any of that money and that they're not paying his living expenses and that they and the collective were working out like a $3,000 a month stipend, and all these things have not been met because he says promises were not met. UNLV's side is saying, one, they never had a $100,000 agreement in contract for him. They never verbally promised him that. And that, he did not have the NIL collective is saying all this, and that none of that was promised, but they were working on a stipend, a deal while he was there, working that out. So he agreed to transfer in February. He had to finish at Holy Cross so he could maintain that eligibility. So we had this redshirt year. And so he didn't get there until July. He missed spring. So each side is saying that either one was under the wrong impression or lied or whatever. So Matthew Sluka is now not going to play for them. And we wouldn't normally be talking about UNLV's quarterback doing this at all if not for the fact that they have with him a very good chance at being the G5 playoff representative. They have wins over 2 Big 12 teams, Houston and Kansas.
Yep.
Also, we're in an upside-down world where wins over Houston and Kansas turn into maybe leverage plays, which is what's
very odd.
Yeah, it's very odd. And I'm not knocking I'm telling you, Lance Leipold's done a great job. That 4 years ago, losing to Kansas was the worst thing that could happen.
Yep, that's Texas.
To a team. Now, a short 4 years later, a win over Kansas is being used to leverage more money potentially from a school.
That's
not
very
like he
odd.
beat Alabama. He beat Kansas, who's 1-3 this year, by the way.
Right, yeah. And Houston's record isn't very good either.
No, like Houston, but after the Kansas win, UNLV's people are alleging that the agent came and said, well, he's worth more now. And I don't know who to believe. Look, if UNLV made a promise that they couldn't keep, then I'm on Matthew Sluka's side. But if he went there without a signed contract and nobody gave him $100,000 on paper,
right,
and you did this, that's on you, man. That's on you, and you should have maybe had some better representation.
Yeah, I don't understand the logic of going without having something in writing. I know we've kind of all been in situations before where you get told something and you maybe move on it and it doesn't unfold the way you expected. But at the same time, when you're talking this big circumstance and the financial backing behind it, I want that in writing if I'm Sluka. And also, why I don't necessarily want to bank my future on something a assistant coach told me, when we've just saw this unfold with Colorado, where assistant coaches don't, like you go off and try to get Saudi money and then they rush you off or brush you under the wayside. It's kind of the same thing here. Like I need to hear this from Barry Odom, first off, if I'm hearing it from anybody on the coaching staff. Secondly, I want it in contract, and I need my lawyers and everybody in the room with me before I even make the deal, because it's all hearsay. And you get in a situation like this, what are you going to do? Like, this is why you're going to have to get collective bargaining eventually, because we're going to have more of these things pop up.
But, I saw Joel Anderson and Bill Connolly had an exchange on Twitter this morning about this okay, so the coaches all want collective bargaining now because that's going to make it easier for them. Mm-hmm. I think collectively bargaining agreement would be best, but we don't know who's going to represent the players in this. True. In that there's not a union for the players. And you can collectively bargain without a union, but this is, 300 disparate groups of athletes at schools that are all part of this thing.
It's a professional sports league that they're just neglecting to admit.
Yeah. Yes. Like this is now professional sports.
Yes.
It is. Look, and I know in America we're not used to it, but Luka Doncic's been playing professional basketball since he was a teenager. Yeah. Right? In the European soccer system, guys are playing professional soccer and getting paid when they're in their teens regularly. It happens a little bit here. We don't necessarily have, 15-year-old super studs all over the place like they do, but, there's a lot of time, like by the time you're 22 and ready to, take the big time, it's because you've been playing, for that club for 6 years in some way, shape, or form, and are now, you've grown into being able to run with these men,
Yeah.
So this isn't that much different than what they do in the rest of the world. I understand that we're in America and we have our own way of doing things in all of it. Whether our way's the best or not, it's the American way. Say, hey, you should look at Australia. They do this. That was a penal colony in the 1500s. Let's not listen to what they say.
No.
They have to worry about koala syphilis. They've got their own problems. Do you know that, Garrett?
I did not. I knew cat AIDS. But
no. Here, little side note. The number one killer of koalas is syphilis.
I did not know that.
They get syphilis, and so they have to get treated. The other problem with koalas is they're lazier than sloths.
You get caught up in the fires, yeah.
Yeah, you remember when they had the wildfires in Australia? Everybody was concerned about the koalas because
they're just going to sit there.
The forest is on fire, and they're just what is this about? Yes. I already have this syphilis. Why do I have to deal with it?
Yeah, I can't move with it. I can't move like this.
You guys know what this is like. Oh, everything's burning. So I was it syphilis? Whatever. Chlamydia. They get chlamydia.
Okay.
It's chlamydia, not syphilis. Know your STDs, folks. But yeah, so that's their like number one thing that gets them. So I bet you didn't think you're getting that on the triple.
I was not expecting that. I like the what is it? The Crap Brothers. Give me a little Crap Brothers session.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we don't like adopt these ideas, so we're slow to adapt to things. So yeah, they have to do it. But the rules are all over the place. There's nobody to police the rules. The NCAA is too, like, all of this is chaos. Mm-hmm. You know, you have, Alex Atkins, Florida State's offensive coordinator, just finished a 3-game suspension for driving a player to meet with a collective. Now we have an assistant coach allegedly promising something he couldn't deliver from the collective. The collective not saying this. Well, there's no punishment for that. Nor should I thought there should be any punishment for driving a kid to the collective. No. Because it's legal for him to talk to the collective. How are they supposed to get there? Then you got Nico Amaliava taking private jet. Like, look, admit what you are. Like, I think that's the biggest problem with the House settlement and all this stuff is that there's enough of the NCAA that doesn't want to admit what they are now. Mm-hmm. They still want to say, like, no, we want to preserve this. Well, preserving amateurism was fine when when the TV deals was there was one game on television on each network every week, not every game. Like, if your team is bad enough or small enough not to at least be on streaming, you've got real problems.
Yeah, you've done something wrong.
Yeah. You can find your team playing a game easily if you want to every single week. Mm-hmm. As opposed to the time, like, I remember when I first got here in the early 2000s, Baylor had a TV game, and the way that they were preparing for it was honestly like the prime minister was coming.
Because they were actually going to be on TV?
Yeah, because they're like, oh my God. Okay. Listen, guys, we have to change the catering this week. Like, no sandwiches at halftime. Sandwiches are for poor people. We can't have that. Like, we have to, do something. What about hot dogs? Hot dogs are also for poor people, Gary. I don't eat your ideas. Let's think fancy here. Has anybody vacuumed this carpet ever?
Probably not at
those
Floyd
kind of
Casey.
Things. Get a rug cleaning company up here. Those wires, you see those exposed wires? Hide them. TV's coming. Like, it was a huge deal. Now, it's just part of it. Mm-hmm. The only thing is, okay, are you on streaming? Are you on cable? Are you on network? That's it. That's the only differences. TV's every week. Also, so you don't have to act like the prime minister's coming every single week. And, they just don't want to admit what they are. No. And, all they're fighting to do this is not admitting what they are because they want to be able to keep the money. They want to keep the grift.
They got greedy.
Yeah. And the old guard people just can't think their way out of, we had a good run.
Retire.
We had a good run.
Go away.
If you don't that's to me. If you don't want to do the new era of the NCAA, get out. But that all comes down to something we've seen with Jaden Rashada, where he was promised a lot and is now suing everybody he can in Florida, because that deal was not met. And then you've got this situation with Matthew Sluka, which is a far lower guarantee. Jaden Rashada is talking about $14 million or something like that. And then we're talking about $100K here for Matthew Sluka, a guy who's at the Holy Cross. So this is a mess, and this is all of the NCAA's making, because now they've created a system where a quarterback from Holy Cross, who's currently throwing for 48.3% percentage on the year. Now, look, they're winning games, and he's super athletic and can really run the ball, but he's only hitting wide receivers who are wide open.
Right.
And part of that is he's below 50%, and one of his wide receivers is Ricky White Jr., who is a badass.
Well, think about it. He went to UNLV. Like, if he was a star, he would have had more people that were going after him. Yeah. And then, you make the jump up from FCS to FBS. There's going to be a learning curve there. But, I don't necessarily – he's not putting up, lightning numbers that are making you think that he's automatically worth this. He's got them to a couple of wins. But I also have kind of been wondering what this situation is, because we see this a lot. Like, it was Sluka himself under one one idea of how things were going to unfold, and then maybe like the agent and the dad try to work up something else. Like it just seems odd how all this, because there's so many different angles and perspectives of what are happening, and like stuff his dad is saying isn't lining up, and I don't know, man. It's just confusing as hell.
Yeah, This has all been a mess, and that is to say, I hope this works out for Matthew Sluka. I hope that he's not got a predatory agent, which I don't know.
We've seen those plenty too.
I don't know. Yeah. But also, it should be a cautionary tale for everybody.
Yep.
Get it in writing. Get it in writing.
Mm-hmm.
And the Sluka family said this has never been about money, but now it is about money. So, I don't know. And we've had Barry Odom on the show many times, and I'm curious to hear what he says about it. I consider him to be a fairly trustworthy person. I mean, like, I know that, like, you can't believe everything every coach says. I mean, like, part of their job is to have some subterfuge to it. And there's going to be spin from either side, but I don't know. It's just a mess. And it feels like a mess made potentially by an agent, and some bad advice that somebody got, and potentially by an assistant coach who said something. But I don't know. Like, again, none of that's confirmed.
No.
But what we do know is Matthew Sluka is not going to play for UNLV this year, and he'll be back on the market. But
that's going to be interesting to see, is like, does anybody even take a run at him?
Somebody will, because he's a quarterback and he's super athletic, and they think maybe that they can get that 48.3% passing up. But
is that in Tallahassee?
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, like, I made the joke about, like, you know, right now I'll take anything, but no. Again, they could have gotten in the Matthew Sluka business if they wanted to too. You know, they have $100,000.
Oklahoma State might need him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But who wants to? Do you really want to, like, if you're Mike Gundy and you don't like messing with it right now anyway, you're going to get with this.
And you're only going to get 1 year, right? So what's the point?
Yeah. Is this worth it for 1 year? It will be for somebody who's desperate.
Right.
But, like, and I'm not knocking Matthew Sluka, but because of all this and all the numbers I've given you,
he's got baggage now.
You're going to have to pay him at least $100,000 probably. That's what he thinks he's worth. Or at least that's where the number's going to start, and you'll maybe meet in the middle. He's got baggage. I think the real thing will be to find out, like, what the teammates say here. Mm-hmm. Like, when it starts to come out later on, if the teammates say, well, you know, this is not really how it works here.
Right.
And we all know that. I don't know why Matthew didn't. So those are the things that, or, yes, I support my teammate all the way. This is nonsense, which would be really bad for Barry Odom, because that would mean he's lost the locker room.
Yeah, that's the last thing you need.
If they're on Barry Odom's side, then I have a feeling that, you know, because when it comes down to money, you can love a coach all you want, but if everybody's going to get screwed on the money, like, you don't love him that much.
No, I mean, I think the coaches would have to understand that too, right? Like, they're, with all the money they're throwing, like, you got to understand that perspective.
Yeah. So, Big Lubbock says Taj Brooks getting $750K, and look, I'll tell you what, he's worth every penny.
He is.
He's worth every penny. You are worth what somebody will pay you.
Exactly.
Now, do you live up to that all the time? No. I mean, you know, I'll just use, you brought up FSU, DJU, that's a sunk cost right now. But that's how a lot of things work in sports, where,
or in business in general.
You go and sign a contract with somebody, and because this is a physical game, if you don't have if you're on the decline, then, I mean, that's everybody's fault for not assessing it the right way, you know, and not looking at it like, all right, is this really worth it? And to do all that. So UNLV was put in a pickle because they lost their quarterbacks from last year. You know, Jaden Mayava, who played really well, he went to USC to try to compete for that job, which, if Miller Moss continues on this track, it'll probably be Jaden Mayava's job next year, because Miller Moss will go in the draft because he's played pretty well.
He's pretty good
to this point. So, you know, we don't know. So, yeah, I think this is Clint Moses says this. My first thought once players got paid was that they could all band together and cause a lockout, wanting guaranteed money. Yeah, but the thing is, to get recognized as a union takes years.
Yeah, you got to have it, yeah.
Like, you know, the the reason that we can so like easily say the Steelworkers Union or the Teamsters or something like that is that decades and decades ago they started their union, like they started it, you know, at the beginning of union times. And as new things pop up, you know, there are new unions. Well, there was never need for, well, not a need, but there was never an ability for college athletes to unionize.
And every time they've tried, it's been shot down.
People started trying,
yeah,
and then it kind of got cut off at the knees every time they tried, and now there's momentum for it, but it's still really hard.
No, if you're going to do it now, would be that time.
Here's the other thing: to be an effective union, the people that you are representing have to want it, and I don't think that all college athletes necessarily want that right now. Because would you want a union where you have to pay fees and dues to and all this stuff, or would you want the ability to navigate in this lawless society right now and get as much as you can? Like that's where it is. Like, oh, if I opt for structure, then you know maybe I can't like anymore. But I think that's part of it. Yeah, and again, like not every state has unions, you know, like
I know I've had like one job ever that had a union.
Yeah.
Ever.
I've never been part of a union.
I've never been a part of one, but they offered it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say no to it if it was the right kind.
Yeah.
If it was like here's the thing. Not everything's bulletproof. Like not everything's perfect. Some unions are useful and good, and some have outgrown their usefulness or become corrupt because they've got people at the top that are on the grift.
Like the docs on The Wire.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I was going to say like the New York City Teachers Union.
That too.
Has kind of like ground things to a halt there because like they can have teachers accused of horrible things and then they go to their union representative and then they just get like basically they get paid to go to this building every day and watch movies on their iPad for the time that they would be teaching, even though they shouldn't be teaching.
Right.
Because of union things. And then the system is so backlogged. So, like, that's not really the effective use of a union.
No, that's not benefiting anybody.
But it's benefiting somebody, right? You know, like they wouldn't be doing it if there wasn't somebody at the top going, all right, sorry, Mr. Jenkins, you have to go to the thing, watch movies on your iPad, not those kind of movies.
Yeah.
And you're still going to get your check. You know, you still get to go, you know, leave at 8, you know, show up at 8, leave at 3 every day, if your person even cares.
So it's like ISS?
Yeah.
Or something? Yeah.
It's like ISS for teachers.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's exactly what it
sounds like. Just in a building in New York City, and they just sit in an office and wait there all day. No-show contractor jobs. Those kind of things. So, but let's just all admit, the NCAA is a mess.
Yes.
And Matthew Sluka and his family are caught up in this in one way or another, and so is UNLV. And I kind of feel bad for everybody here. I have taken no side in this. I have taken no side because I have no idea what the exact story is.
I think that's the fair point, the fair way to handle this, because, I mean, ultimately, if UNLV did this, then, yeah, you want to take the side of Sluka. If not, you kind of screwed your team there. So, yeah, until all the details come out, I think just kind of it's best just to stay mutual and absorb all of this.
Also, and I will repeat this again, this is how good Lance Leipold is as a coach. In 4 years, there's at least the story out there that is believable enough that a quarterback at UNLV tried to leverage a win over Kansas to get more money. The fact that, like, the team in that story is Kansas and not Texas or LSU or Florida or, like, Clemson.
Any blue bloods?
Any of the blue bloods. But you can say, well, look, UNLV beat Kansas. This kid's clearly worth more money than that. 1-3 Kansas currently, by the way.
Yeah.
But even still, hey, beat Lance Leipold. That's an accomplishment.
Look,
for nobody who's beaten Kansas this year can walk out going, man, we drilled them. They've lost all these close games, but even still, like, you know, congrats, Lance.
Yep.
You have put your team in the big time.
He's done a hell of a job. It's really impressive.
Look,
it's crazy what he's done, dude.
Potentially shaking down UNLV for more money because of one win over Kansas. I don't know how much I believe that story, but the fact that it's even a thing we can say and might be true.
I would hope not. Like, I don't know how you would be able to do that.
4 years ago, if UNLV had beaten Kansas,
been like, cool.
If UNLV had been Kansas, they'd been like, of course we beat Kansas.
Yeah.
Like we knew that was the game we were going to get. And like, oh, do you think it's going to help you in the playoff? Does it help anyone? No. Now, hey, there you go.
It's a resume pattern.
Yeah, absolutely. When we come back, let's talk about actual football on the field this week. Georgia, Alabama's happening. Oklahoma State, Kansas State's happening. Let's talk about those games. This is 365 Sports.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome back to the Triple Option. Paul Catalina, Garrett Ross. Georgia and Alabama this week. Oklahoma State and Kansas State. This is where we're getting into the meaty part of the schedule here. Kentucky is at Ole Miss. I don't think that they can pull off another near win like they did against Georgia. But maybe Mark Stoops has learned his lesson. If you have the opportunity, take a chance, buddy.
Yeah, but at the same time, Ole Miss is different than Georgia, from offense. They're going to spread you out. They have more playmakers on offense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they kind of make an example out of Kentucky because that will help their resume too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'll tell you, if you want to talk about a team that kind of got dealt a favor in the schedule, they have not played anybody yet. Ole Miss. Mm-hmm. Wake Forest is the best team that they have played. And Wake Forest isn't very good this year.
No.
Kentucky, who we know about. South Carolina, who should be probably the toughest team they play, but we'll see. Then they go to LSU, which would be the first team that can probably run with them on offense, but
LSU's defense can't hang with them.
Exactly.
It's not happening.
That was a shootout last year. It'll probably be a shootout for at least most of it this year, I would think. Then they have Oklahoma, who again that's a we'll see.
Yeah, we don't know about the Oklahoma.
Changing quarterbacks this week. Then Arkansas.
That's winnable, definitely.
Yeah. So, they've got a good shot at being 9-0 when they roll welcome in Georgia.
So
on November the 9th. Then they go to Florida, and then Mississippi State. By far, the easiest schedule in the SEC.
Georgia's the only major team they play?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. No. I'll say this about Ole Miss right now. If not now, Lane, when?
It'll never happen if you can't do it now.
If they can't do it now, if they cannot make a run in this thing. And look, they're good. I'm not knocking the people they play. They've blown the doors off of all of them. They haven't had a scare. They haven't had a moment. Jackson Dart is in his bag.
Good.
All that. They are loaded. But this schedule, everybody talked about Texas's run in the no.
No, this is easier than that.
No. This is the gift schedule from the SEC.
Yeah,
it's like the SEC said, look, guys, we've seen you spend a bunch of money. We really need another team to pop up here. So we're going to, they could not have paved the road better for them.
No.
They could not have paved the road better for them. And it's worked out, normally on normal years, having LSU and Oklahoma would, back-to-back weeks, and I'm not saying it's not going to be tough, would be tougher than it it is this year.
Oh, yeah. Typically, you would think that if you had LSU, Oklahoma, and Georgia on your schedule, you're looking at hopefully getting 2 of those, but realistically knowing that you are probably going to get 1, whereas now it's like, okay, we could possibly get 3, but more than likely we're going to get 2 of these and fall to Georgia. And then at that point, it wouldn't matter because you could either meet them in the championship game or not. You're still going to make the playoff, and you're going to make a run.
Yeah.
So they're good. They're fine.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, that's, it's not now when. And I'm sure, like, if I'm Lane Kiffin, I have that in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not that he's thinking that this is, but let's make sure we take advantage of every good hand we've been dealt here.
Right.
Let's not squander it. Because here's the thing, and this is the case in the SEC. Like, everybody's excited. Like, everybody was like, oh, look at Texas's schedule that they got. Guess what? That Florida schedule is coming around for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's eventually going to come around for everybody. They're just they just got it at the worst possible time for their university.
Yep.
That's why it looks so much worse, is you've got a coach that's trying not to get fired, which that's more than likely over now. And then he's got to go into the teeth of the schedule. So, Oklahoma, same thing. Like, Brent Venables is probably fine, but they didn't get done any favors. But that schedule is coming around for everybody.
Yeah, I also think
look, Alabama's going to get it one year.
Yeah,
Georgia's going to get it one year. The thing is, we won't notice as much because they're who they are.
I also think Oklahoma now is up to a point where you kind of get a pass on this because of the quarterback situation. You could say, well, we made a bad decision or whatever. And you now that you've made that move, it helps take off some of the pressure if you have an excuse of why you couldn't do it. Plus their offensive line play their line play in general has kind of been suspect.
Yeah, absolutely. But Oklahoma State and Kansas State, we talked a little bit about it yesterday on the main show, but these are 2 teams that really need this one right now so they don't kind of go into a spiral. I like Kansas State in Manhattan. I like them to be able to kind of keep Oklahoma State off kilter like they have been. Now, look, they both just took their first losses, so it's not like it's total panic time. But if you look at the way that Oklahoma State's played compared to Kansas State, like outside of the BYU game, which was a shocking blowout. Like, I wouldn't have been so shocked if BYU had won that game like they won the SMU game 18-15. But
right, but the way they did that, nobody does that to K-State.
Like, really has got to do some soul searching in Manhattan this week. But Oklahoma State is not playing Mike Gundy style football right now. And Mike Gundy's the first one to admit it. But Alan Bowman is who Alan Bowman is. He's a bus driver. And their offensive line has underperformed based on all of those veterans coming back. And, I when I made my Big 12 preseason team, I took great pains to, make sure I had at least one Oklahoma State lineman on there. And so far, I almost put 3 of them on there because of how highly touted they are. But so far, they've not lived up to any of that billing.
Now, I'm kind of wondering what that line is.
I wonder what's going on there.
Well, that, but it also is it like a point where these players have stuck around at Oklahoma State because they don't have great draft status, and it's a point where you were banking on your age and experience. Like you were trying to approach the season like an older young team in men's basketball making a run, right? We're just going to bank on our experience, and maybe you're just not that good up there. And when you're going up against younger guys who are better and more athletic, you're getting worked. That's kind of the risk you run when you keep older people or players around like that.
I suppose. I don't know. I don't think it's that. I mean, it's just they have underperformed. They've underperformed. And so this is an opportunity. They've got to get Ollie. If they want to beat Kansas State, Ollie Gordon's got to be a part of this.
Yeah. He's been a non-factor all year.
Yeah, he's been, looking at that Arkansas game, he was a non-factor until overtime. But eventually he's going to get you. That's why you can't let him hang around. But Utah made their entire offense irrelevant until the last 4 minutes of the game. And even then, they looked really bad. An interesting one this week, Louisville and Notre Dame. That's number 15, number 16 in the country. Tyler Shuck's been playing well, and he's been healthy. This is by far the best team Louisville has played defensively. I think Notre Dame, what Mike Denbrock has done with the offense the last couple weeks is admitting who Riley Leonard is and letting Riley Leonard run the ball and making people cheat up and then running play action off of that, getting his athleticism and physicality going, leaning into Love, the running back, and and doing that. So this one's at South Bend, and Louisville upended them last year, and blew their doors off in Louisville. Was kind of the Jeff Brom is here and we mean business game that Notre Dame game was, and coasted on through until the end of the year. Then they met all my sons.
Yeah. I haven't watched Louisville this year. I haven't had an opportunity to catch them.
I've only seen a little bit. So.
But I picked them this week in our pick 'em, but this is also one where Notre Dame, they've already had that ugly loss. They've kind of found their identity. I could see the Irish honestly winning this one, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did. Yeah. But it's going to be an interesting matchup. And you bring up a good point. Louisville hasn't faced nobody, whereas Notre Dame has started off with freaking A&M and Kyle Field. And A&M is not great or anything, but that's a hell of an environment to go play in.
A&M's pretty good, though.
They're pretty good. But
they're all right. This is a team that's going to win 7-8 games,
They'll beat LSU probably.
We'll see. We'll see how they do playing that game in the middle of the year and not the end.
Yeah.
It's going to feel weird. Here's the deal with A&M and LSU. When they were non-conference foes, it was always at the beginning of the year. First, second, third game, before conference season. Then when they started playing each other again, that was A&M's rival.
They tried to replace it with Texas.
Yeah, they put we're going to play LSU, which A&M fans were excited about, and LSU fans are like, all right. We don't like them. We liked it. I think LSU and A&M fans love the game, but
I hate losing to them.
Well, yeah. We love the game, right?
Yeah, it's fun.
You love the game. It's fun. I grew up in the generation that likes when they played every year. And then R.C. Slocum came along, started beating LSU.
They didn't want that no more.
And they were like, no, we don't. We can't look down on you if you beat us 3 times in a row, so let's not schedule it. And then they brought it back, and all these old school Aggies and old school LSU fans like it.
It should be played every year.
It should be played every year, especially because of the proximity.
Yeah, that's
really
what I was saying.
But it's not the rivalry game.
No.
Let's not make it the rivalry game. It's one of the games you care about the most. But it's not the rivalry. If you look on the schedule, you rank your couple rivalry games, and you're like, oh, LSU, really want to beat LSU. But it's not it's more important to each other than when they play Kentucky or Mizzou or something like that. But it's not as important as when LSU plays Arkansas.
Or Bama or something.
Bama,
no.
Or Florida, Tennessee, those are probably more important. But a couple more games before we get to the big dog. The big daddy game of the week. Wazoo at Boise State.
Woo.
Yeah. With Pac-12, a Pac-12 matchup. We're going to get this conference game coming up in a couple years. That one should be very interesting. And then one that bears watching, Illinois at Penn State. Here is a challenge for Penn State. A really good defense. Luke Altmaier's playing well.
He's balling.
Drew Aller's really taking steps forward this year. Andy Kotelnicki has got a Penn State offense that scares people. This is an under-the-radar good game that people maybe aren't talking about, because at the same exact time as that game's going on, we've got Georgia at Bama. And to me, this is a total toss-up game. I'm picking Georgia because of the revenge factor.
Mm-hmm. I took Bama.
But I might flip to Bama because it's in Tuscaloosa. Bama's kind of had their number, and this is – for Kalen DeBoer, this is his first big test.
Well, also, Georgia's in a place right now where, they're having depth issues in the lines, and I think that's going to kind of show its ugly head against Bama, and I think that's where Bama gets the edge on them. Jalen Milroe is playing surreal right now. He's the better quarterback in this game. I think it's going to be intriguing to see how DeBoer holds up in this coaching matchup, because we've seen him make some mistakes in the past, but I think it's going to be a fantastic game. I think it's going to go down to the wire. But this is one where honestly, I can see Bama getting the win and shaking things up a little bit in the SEC.
Well, here's what I know about Kalen DeBoer. He's not going to be afraid of anything.
Hell no.
And he's got, Jalen Milroe's one of the best players in the country. And being overshadowed now, which I think Alabama needs a little bit. He's being overshadowed by the fact that you've got Cam Ward and Shadur Sanders and some of these other guys.
Arch Manning.
Yeah, all that. People are talking about all these other teams, and Jalen Milroe's just going out there tearing it up right now. So, yeah, I think that's something to keep your eye on as well. But I really do. I won't be able to watch the game because I'll be at FSU and SMU. is a way more depressing game than it started out to be when I bought the tickets.
Going back to the Illinois game with Penn State, do you think it kind of benefits Illinois that they're just coming off that game with Nebraska where they play eerily similar offense to what you see with Penn State? But I mean,
I do, and they played on the road on a big stage. I think it benefits them. I think it benefits them. This is probably going to be the toughest stretch of their schedule for sure against Nebraska on the road in an environment that's really tough to play in, and now going to a tougher environment at night. Is this? I don't know if this is the whiteout game or not.
Oh, if it's a whiteout.
What?
Those
I think they usually save those for doing a whiteout for Illinois would be giving Illinois too much
credit,
respect. For a school like Penn State
they got to snub their nose at them.
Who's in the country club? So, but yeah, I definitely think that would be a good one, and then of course we got the big dog that's gonna be really fun to watch. So,
you nervous? You nervous about Knowles and
of course
SMU?
I am. Of course I am.
What are your expectations?
None.
I like it.
No expectations.
You shouldn't at this point.
No expectations. Do your best. That's what I want. And look, they're already the week is already wonky because that hurricane tropical it's going to be a hurricane, but Tropical Storm Helene is coming right to Tallahassee. That's it's pointed right at Doak Campbell Stadium. If you look at the track right now, some of my friends that were going to go to the game, we're going to hang out all weekend, not coming now. They've got to evacuate. They're going to Alabama. So Florida State's probably, I would assume they're going to have to leave tonight to get out on time and move, the logistics of going to the hotel and be like, hey, do you have all these rooms for us tonight? Or would they have to go somewhere else and then go to Dallas? They have a charter flight, so it's not as difficult. It's not like they have to get
the logistics
100-person travel party onto a Spirit Airlines flight. But yeah, so the week's given this week and all that's already wonky. I have no expectations. I just want to see them in person. I want to meet some other FSU people. Yeah, you like to feel part of something,
right?
I've not been able to. I've been so far removed from the world of my, the people who get to go, like Kim Coulter gets to go see Texas Tech every week and gets to be in that community. I don't get to do that. No. I've been covering games for 20 years now of a school that I'm not affiliated with at all, personally. It's just how it is. So, that's going to do it for us. I think I've said all the things I can say today, Garrett. Yep. I think I'm out of things to say. And later on, we've got Taylor McCarg. We've got John Wilner, who I cannot wait to hear his take on this pack nonsense. And Zach Gelb from Infinity Sports Network. Love having Zach on. Can't wait to hear his take on Matthew Sluka and this also pack nonsense. All that hinging around UNLV, who, congratulations, UNLV. You finally made it to the top of the news cycle. You get a gold star, and your PR people get plenty of Pepto-Bismol. Oof. That's going to do it for the Triple Option. 365 Sports in an hour. See you, everybody.